The Falkland Islands, June 1982. A small British infantry section picks its way across boggy ground in the half-dark of an austral winter morning. Somewhere ahead, Argentine positions hold the high ground, and resting on the shoulder of a soldier who has been told repeatedly that this weapon is obsolete, is a gun designed in 1943. A gun that military procurement committees had dismissed as clumsy, too heavy, and frankly embarrassing beside the sleek missile systems of the modern age. A gun that in a matter of hours will put an Argentine armored vehicle out of action. That gun is the L6 WOMBAT, the last serious descendant of the British 3.45-inch recoilless rifle family. And its story begins not with triumph, but with catastrophe. By 1940, British tank hunting doctrine was in crisis. The Boys anti-tank rifle, which gunners had been issued with quiet optimism, was proving almost useless against the thickening armor of German panzers. The standard 2-pounder anti-tank gun could do the job, but only at ranges that made survival a matter of luck. Armor was getting heavier faster than conventional guns could scale upward, and every kilogram added to a gun meant more horses, more lorries, more men just to get it into position. The mathematics of conventional artillery were working against the British Army at precisely the moment it could least afford it. The solution that would eventually emerge from the Royal Armament Research and Development Establishment at Fort Halstead in Kent was radical in principle and deeply counterintuitive in practice. A recoilless rifle does not attempt to contain the force of its propellant gases. It vents them deliberately, backwards, through a perforated breech. The rearward blast cancels the forward recoil, meaning the weapon can be mounted on far lighter carriages or carried by men on foot across ground no wheeled vehicle could cross. The trade-off is a savage backblast that makes concealment nearly impossible and requires strict safety distances behind the breech. But for an army that needed something a small team could carry up a hillside in the dark, this was an acceptable bargain. The WOMBAT, Weapon of Magnesium Battalion Anti-Tank, entered British service in 1962, weighing roughly 295 kilograms, 650 pounds, in its towed configuration. This was not light. Critics pointed out, correctly, that it was cumbersome to position, its spotting rifle gave away a crew's location the moment it fired, and that guided anti-tank missiles were surely the future. What those critics did not fully account for was terrain. In the bogs of Northern Ireland, the narrow streets of possible European battlefields, and, as it turned out, the steep ridges of the Falkland Islands, the WOMBAT could go where heavier, more sophisticated systems simply could not follow. If you are finding this interesting, a quick subscribe helps more than you know. It keeps this kind of history coming. No equivalent German recoilless rifle program had achieved anything approaching the reliability and longevity of the British weapons. American forces developed their own recoilless rifles, the 75mm and 106mm series, and these saw wide service in Korea and Vietnam. But the British approach, refined through iteration from the earlier BAT and MOBAT, produced a weapon with a sustained operational life that outlasted almost every contemporary prediction. Exact production figures for the WOMBAT remain partially classified, but estimates place total manufacture at several thousand units across multiple Commonwealth nations. By any rational assessment, the WOMBAT should have been retired before the Falklands conflict began. It had been earmarked for replacement, its ammunition supply chain was aging, and the optics of sending 40-year-old technology to a modern war seemed to invite criticism. Instead, it performed. Argentine armored vehicles were engaged and destroyed. The weapons moved across terrain that defeated everything else. The crews who carried them, across kilometers of sodden peat in the South Atlantic winter, did what British infantry had always done with equipment that was officially past its prime. They made it work. Today, surviving wombats can be found in regimental museums across Britain. They sit behind glass, inert and slightly absurd-looking, all exposed mechanism and ungainly angles. Nothing about their appearance suggests 40 years of unbroken service across 3 continents. But that is precisely the point. The most durable weapons are rarely the most elegant. They are the ones that work when the ground is wrong, the weather is wrong, and the timetable for a better solution has slipped again. The Wombat never looked the part. It simply kept doing the job.
If this earned your time, it earns a like. Subscribe for more untold history. See you in the next one.